Can we talk a little bit about your marriage, divorce, and how you handle that with the kids?
Sure.
So what was the, if you don't mind me asking, what was the reason why you guys ended up getting a divorce?
You know what? Sometimes they just don't work out. Like that's just, I think that's the gist of it. That I don't know. It's been a long time, dude. Like it's kind of hard to even put it into words at this point. I probably could have told you better 15 years ago than today. Um, in those days it was very bitter, but now it's like, I go over there and spend Thanksgiving with her and her new husband and the girls. Like Megan's, my youngest, has her birthday in a week. And I'll go there for the birthday and they'll all be there and the family will all be there. I don't even think about it anymore, you know? Um, but sometimes they just don't work out. I think when you're young, you get married for a lot of different reasons. You haven't really figured out who you are yet. And looking back on it, I'm convinced I had no idea who I was yet. It's the age old boys and girls are different, mature at different speeds. And, I blame myself more than I blame her for whatever that's worth.
So how did you guys handle that? How did you handle that as a dad with your kids? I mean, you said they were 3 and 5, so they're pretty young, but they're like present. They're present and impressionable at that age.
It's tough, dude. It was really tough. You get all the questions you see in Lifetime movies. Daddy, why aren't you guys together? Daddy, I wish you and mommy were living together. Like you hear all of that. And, you just kind of work through it one at a time. Probably in the early stages, I would tell you probably the best thing to happen to divorce these days is text messaging, because you don't have to talk as much, for my girls, it's always been, mommy and daddy both love you equally. Like, I love you, your mom loves you, you have a great mom. Like I've always made a point to not be the one that's going to badmouth the other parent. And for the record, she's been the same way. Like I don't ever felt like she ever sat over there and told the girls that I was a big bag of crap, for me, that was always important. And the other part that was important was keeping a unified front. So if she was going to punish them for something, I was going to do the same thing, and that's really important. We certainly have different viewpoints on life and we manage our households differently in a lot of different ways. And, it's become probably even more evident to us as the girls have gotten older. But, I think the more that you stay together on the things that are really critical for them, the better they turn out. And they understand that, they can't play mom against dad. Now, you can have your own rules for your own house, though. That's cool. Like we probably watched a lot more cartoons here than they did at their mom's house. If that makes sense. Played a lot more video games, did a lot more dumb stuff. I'm certainly less strict when it comes to who's washing dishes and that sort of thing.
So, one of the things that I imagine would be just a challenge in general when raising kids is balancing out your mind and your viewpoint of how to prioritize things with your kids and what things deserve what types of either repercussions or encouragement with your partner's ideas and desires in that realm. And I'm curious, do you think that's easier or harder as a divorce, like single dad, trying to balance that out with your ex-wife?
Well, I'm not sure if it's easier or harder. You just have to be thoughtful about it, because we certainly don't agree on everything. And I think you have to pick your battles. You figure out the things that really matter, particularly in the long term for the kid. It's like your ex is going to put your kids to bed at a certain time. That's not a battle you need to fight with them. Like they're never going to know what time you put the kid to bed necessarily, unless you're like 6 hours later, like I just remember distinctly when the girls were little, we take this trip to Mississippi to see my parents every year. We go a couple of times a year and it's a 13-hour drive. And the girls have always been really good at it. And, the ex would text me, we'd have like 2 hours left in the drive and it'd be late in the day. And she'd be like, hey, don't feed the girls. Don't let them go to sleep. because she'd want them to go to bed at a normal hour, and she would want to feed them dinner when they got home, and there'd be some trips where I'd be like, okay, no, I'll make sure that happens. And they'd fall asleep anyway, and I'm not going to wake them up. Or there'd be trips where I'm like handing them pixie sticks and Red Bulls and going, hey, have it, just don't tell your mom, you know. And there would be other trips when I'm doing exactly what she said. You find the battles to fight and figure it out. And truthfully, like, those aren't the things that matter for the kids long term, because they're not, they never look at, here's what mom told me, here's what dad told me, for the most part, especially in like those kind of scenarios. That you just want them to turn out to be good kids and make their own choices, and they'll end up different than you think they're going to end up anyway. So I've never really fought those battles. And, I'm also one of those people that are like, it's not worth it. It's not worth the mental anguish and the anxiety of fighting with someone over someone that's not even going to be in the room with you when you're delivering that message anyway. So you just have to balance it out. It's hard. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't hard.
Sure.
But, you just have to pick and choose.
It honestly doesn't sound much different than actually continuing to be married. Like it really doesn't sound like
it's not.
It's that much different. In a strange way, the role of that relationship, right? Because like there's like the relationship of the parents, regardless of whether they're married or not. But the relationship of the parents takes up some energy of each of the parents, and in some ways takes up some of the energy of the kids. And like when you both stay engaged with like that common link, the kids, you don't really let go in a strange way, right? Like I think we both would be able to say that we know people who've been divorced and just don't interact with their exes in any way. Like it's just not a relationship that exists anymore. But you don't really have that option because it was a priority for both of you to raise your kids. So you almost didn't. It's almost not like a complete divorce. I don't know. It might be a strange thing to point out. Like I don't, my wife and I are still married. We're happily married. We're doing great. My parents are still married. In my circle, marriages have had staying power. So whether that's because people just like grit their teeth and make it through, and it's just like culturally not a thing to get divorced, or whether or not they just find the right partners. But the types of things that you're describing sound like and are familiar to, I think, people who are married. It just sounds like the types of conversations you still have with your husband and wife.
Yeah, I think it is similar in a lot of ways. I think that if there's a benefit to divorce, is you can give your kids experiences they wouldn't have otherwise. And they still get a lot of the same experiences they would have had if you're willing to work with your ex-partner on that. So like from day one, almost from the time we got divorced, I was still coming to Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas. And like Laura would invite me over for Christmas morning, and I'd be there when the girls came down to open their Christmas presents, and we would buy gifts together for them, and maybe that's unique. I don't know, but we always tried to do that. And, kudos to her for being willing to do that, and for offering to do it. So, it certainly takes two. It isn't just me. So I think, they got a lot of the same experiences that their friends who had, married parents. And then the flip side of that is they had plenty of experiences where it's just the three of us going to Disney World, or Six Flags or whatever crazy thing I had planned for the weekend, and so we have a lot of special memories that are just our own, and they have a lot of special memories with their mom that are just their own. And I think that's really cool.